Okay, game two here, and we have a interesting one here. There's knights on the board. There's also goons, which is always a big player. There's highway and the knights, which means they can get to your provinces if they like. You put two highways in play, and then your provinces become susceptible. There's also apprentice as the only trashing on the board, aside from Anna, of course, Dame Anna. But the only reliable source of trashing is apprentice. Relic is an attack, and I think a strong attack, and there's fishing village. So obviously, as much goons as you could put into play, you would like to do that, right? But the draw is tricky because your draw is apprentice, and apprentice needs fuel to draw. So it is gonna be a bit tricky on how to build this thing here because of apprentice being your only draw. And you want to draw more cards, but then you have to trash more expensive things, right? So anyways, on the opening here, I want to get at least one apprentice, maybe two apprentices up front. I consider between Chancellor and Fortune Teller, but opt to hold back on making that decision because I only want to get one of the two, and I pick up a silver here. So it's either going to be Chancellor Silver or Fortune Teller Silver. And I wait because I want to see what my opponent did, and good thing that I waited because I see 5 coppers come out for an apprentice. So now I have to think, okay, probably gonna trash an estate with that apprentice. If I buy the fortune teller, I can cycle him back to that apprentice more quickly. And with the estates rapidly disappearing from my opponent's deck, the fortune teller will do less and less work. For that reason, I pick up the chancellor, and the chancellor can allow me to catch up because I can flip my deck over, much like messenger, and get to my newly purchased cards more quickly. So here my opponent does manage to push out an estate with the apprentice. I'm able to buy an apprentice of a fortunate 5 coin hand there. And this Chancellor saves me 2 cards. I'm able to flip the deck and get the apprentice in earlier, picking up a fishing village along the way. So here I'm able to get rid of my first estate, and I feel okay at this point. Chancellor has put in good work so far and is showing up at the top of a shuffle again. So this is great. I'm going to discard the deck. All 3 of my good cards are here. No reason not to discard that. Now I have to spend a bit more time thinking about what do I want to buy. I can get goons. I can get relic. I can get one of the knights. I can get a highway. All of these are good options. The tricky part is to decide which of these is the best. It's hard to argue with goons, but instead I opt for the apprentice at this point. Reasons. One, trashing. You need to be very, very thin in these kinds of decks where draw is very tight. So I want the second apprentice to help me trash down more. 2, apprentices, like I said at the beginning, your only source of draw outside of Sir Destry, but are you going to go dig in for Destry to get 2 cards? Apprentice is your draw, effectively. So this is why I opt for the second apprentice here, not the goons. Relic is decent, is worth it, but I have enough money to come back and still get a relic, so I am not gonna pick up the relic right away. Probably the next 5 is a relic for me. My opponent goes for the relic here, and here I'm able to get rid of 1 copper. Again, that Chancellor showing up at the top of the shuffle. Excellent luck with the Chancellor there. And I'm going to buy the relic here. It boosts my economy a bit. It's a silver, but also the attack is good. It's a good attack. Relic is innocuous, but it hurts. And here I could just chop the copper, but instead I opt to chop the fishing village to try to cycle a bit more. Maybe I can see my second apprentice and trash something else. Get the chancellor in play, buy something, cycle. None of that happens. I just have enough money to pick up a highway as my opponent has picked up one already. So not really sure what my opponent is going to do with all these highways. Obviously it's good with goons. Obviously, as my opponent picks up a goons here. I'm not going to discard the deck here this time with Chancellor because I believe there's an apprentice and an estate in those remaining cards, and it happens to pair up that way. And again, the Chancellor at the top of our shuffle. This Chancellor is doing incredible work. Don't let anybody tell you Chancellor is bad, okay? Chancellor has its moments, as does every Dominion card. So another highway for my opponent. I'm going to trash that estate with the apprentice here, and again I have some choice as to whether to discard the deck or not with the Chancellor. There's a goons in the back, there's an apprentice in the back, and a highway or two, but I discard the deck. I can buy something, shuffle back, and we can go again, right? We can go again, no big deal. So on 6 I pick up the highway, getting the relic down. Now the tricky thing with this apprentice draw is that you don't want to play highway first and then play apprentice, because highway drops the cost of things. Highway apprentice relies on the cost of things, so the more expensive something is the more cards you're gonna get. But if you play a highway before, you're gonna get less cards. That's not good. Like, look, this estate here only gets me 1 card instead of the 2. What's that about? I want my 2 cards. So it's tricky. You need to start with an apprentice basically in order to get good draw. So there I trash a highway to the apprentice. Now that is questionable. I am not at all sure if that's correct or not, but I didn't want to just play 2 highways and thin a copper that turn and buy nothing. So in an attempt to have a better turn, I fed one of the highways to the apprentices, as my opponent does the same here. I was surprised. I didn't think my opponent would do that, but they went for the same aggressive play as I did here, and they don't come up with anything great, just as I did. I was looking for my goons, basically. I was looking for my goons. I could get 1 highway down with the goons. I didn't find the goons. Oh well, maybe I'll find that later. I trashed this silver at this point, and here now I can thin a copper. So this is what I'm hoping to do. Apprentice trash 1 big card, and then the second apprentice can trash a copper, and I can be thinning that way while cycling. That was kind of an idea, maybe. I don't know. Depends on what the apprentice comes with, of course. And I'm able on these 2 buys here to pick up a fishing village, because I have 2 terminals now and they're getting the deck is getting thinner, more likely to collide. So I get the fishing village to supplement that, and a highway alongside it. Highway is going to be important for the goons, for the knights obviously. So I'm just trying to pick up as many highways as I can. I don't want to give my opponent 10 highways. I mean, I don't really know what they're going to do with it. I don't really know what I'm going to do with the highways, but I just don't want my opponent to have 10 of them, so I'll just buy some of them. So here, no apprentice in hand, so probably going to be a small turn. My opponent plays a goons after a highway here. 6 and 2 buys. I thought it would have been the highway for sure here, and a fishing village is what I did before and is what I would do again. And my opponent doesn't get the fishing village, instead just gets the highway, which I found a bit strange. Obviously going to play this goons over the Chancellor here, and I have a choice now. I could get a relic, I could get a knight. I want to buy something expensive first of all, because if I have to trash it to the apprentice, then it'll get me more cards. This is a great turn for my opponent. 4 highways followed by a goons. That's great. The only thing better than that would be 2 goons, or 3 goons, or 10 goons. Anyway, there's good turn for my opponent. Instead I get the apprentice there, because apprentice equals draw in this game. And again I'm stuck with a hand here of highway, apprentice. My opponent picks up the first knight of the game. I found it strange that they would pick up the knight, especially it being Sir Michael. It uses up a terminal slot, and you're already playing goons for the discard attack. So, I mean, I was happy to see him break for the knight, and Molly is much better than Michael, I think, on this board. Just fishing village without the coin, Nelly? Yeah, I'll have it. I'll have it for sure. I trash one of the highways again, that aggressive play, which is somewhat controversial. Not somewhat controversial, I think it is very controversial. And I pick up Molly alongside our second goons. And I'm going to get rid of my relic at this point, just for draw, solely for the purpose of draw. Molly turns up Michael, so both those knights are gone. And I'm able to get a double goons turn. First of the game, I believe, so that's good for me. Should try to make use of all the buys, right? Let us try to make use of all the buys. So I could go village Martin, but Martin isn't so exciting. It could be if you get it in play after all the goons, but I mean that's hard to do on this board. So I go for a couple pair of fishing villages. My opponent goes for Martin. I get rid of the Chancellor there just for draw. It's done its job incredibly well. I have absolutely no complaints about Chancellor for this game. So it's gone performing his last rites here as giving me 3 cards. And I pick up Destry just to counter Martin. Don't want to be stuck with no knights. The fishing villages I think is also good because knights are being bought, so you want to play a knights. My opponent comes up with like 4 highways on double goons, and I was flabbergasted. But they've been trashing um, expensive things to their apprentice too, so that's not too surprising. Trashing here with the apprentice before playing the highways, of course, and finally for the first time I'm able to draw my deck. Now in the last turn I thought my opponent would go triple knight, but they went for something different, going for what? Apprentice, province, and fishing village. I thought triple knight was a strong play, but my opponent decided not to do that and go for points instead and another apprentice. Now I think we have the same number of apprentices, so I have one more apprentice than my opponent at this point. Here I decide to play it safe and just trash the copper, get double goons in plays. Great, you get 2 points for whatever you buy. I'm going to pick up Josephine here. It's points and the piles are starting to look very, very thin, and we're going to enter the end game very soon with what is this? 3 apprentices, 1 fishing village. None of us have enough buys, or so I thought at the moment, to empty the piles. Later I realized my opponent has Martin and can get enough buys to empty the game there, but we'll see. Goons here. Also on these goons attacks, I'm trying to just keep cards that draw. Anything that doesn't draw goes in the bin. So goons will go in the bin, but apprentice will stay. Here I trash my province to the apprentice, and I'm able to draw my entire deck. So that's great for me. I get double goons in play, and I'm thinking about whether to trash this copper. I play Josephine, and Josephine gets one of my opponent's goons. That's great. Means I can buy another apprentice here, and my opponent can't end the game. Of course, I was not counting Martin at that point. It was only after I realized, wait, Martin is around, and maybe I will lose, but it doesn't happen on this turn anyway, and Destry goes down to Bailey, so that's a big deal for me. Destry was drawing me cards, man. Cards are important in this game, and cards without having to trash. My opponent has a big turn here, coming up with his double province, double duchy, and now the scores are looking very, very even. Just Josephine forks a pair of provinces there. That's great. I was super happy to see that. That's why I kept 2 highways and I didn't want to trash any more than that for that reason, so that I can hopefully nick off a province. I go for double duchy there because I think it's the safer play. I don't want to take the province and lose. So I take the 2 duchies and hope my opponent can't get double province again. They don't, and they go for double duchy of their own, fearing my province with the apprentice. Explosive turns could happen. It's fair enough to expect that. So double duchy for my opponent all the time with goons in play here. This is an easy call. You get rid of a highway, and I don't have much money here. All I could do is pick up a couple of estates as my opponent shells another province to the apprentice, and this is looking grim for me here. I thought this was game over, but instead it isn't quite there. My opponent doesn't have enough highways and picks up a province and an estate, and things look very, very grim for me with this hand of just 4 and 2 coin. I go for double estate. There's not much more I could do. My opponent shells some more expensive cards, Martin this time, and then fishing village, but only comes up with 6, leaving me still some chance of winning the game, going for what, duchy and copper at that point. Still no apprentice showing up for me here, while my opponent's apprentices are showing up quite a lot. Here I don't think I can take that duchy safely, so I'm just going to take another goons and a copper. And because I took that other goons, I thought it was safe to trash this goons here. Maybe, I think this is a misplay. I think I should have trashed the province, because here I'm $1 short of finishing the game. I'm a dollar short of that province up top, and this is not the first time for the game I could have ended it on a win. There was a time before when I could have emptied the apprentices and the fishing villagers and would have won, but I didn't draw my second goons, and it was the very last card in my deck. I go for double estate here and hope that my opponent can do nothing, and so said, so done. Amazing. Amazing end to this tense endgame here. My opponent can do nothing, and with my cards, I have the game in hand. So that's game 2. Very, very tense ending here. And Josephine is safe because all the knights are in the bin except her. Thank you for watching. Comments, please. See you in the next one.